Arthur from Mastodon Productions is going to introduce you to their AI pipeline. Arthur proposed to come here to make his presentation. So thank you for that. We started to collaborate a few months ago together, and so we know that AI is a controversial topic, but we think it matters that everyone knows what is happening and what people are doing. Arthur is from New York, and he created recently his new ventures after working on high-end CGI for years. And I think I will let him introduce himself. It will be better. So thank you, Arthur, for being there. And yeah, let's see our talk.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the invite, and there is a reason that I choose this specific summit to come here before I fly to Berlinale. And but we'll come back to it at the end of the presentation. So I'm here to talk about two main objects that we need to think about while dealing with AI. Yes. First of all, we have to embrace the fact that traditional industries are in deep shock. So I was working for a high-end VFX CGI production company, working with global brands such as GM, Porsche, Lockheed Martin, to all sorts of high-end films, handling mostly the high-end work. Yes, so I have seen pipelines as complicated as it gets with all sorts of technologies and expensive tech that goes into it. And the moment that something happened to me and changed my life, sort of, and my perspective about technology is the collapse of Technicolor Corporation, which is, of course, founded by France, right? The roots come to France. And we had multiple conversations with the founders, with all of their teams, and we ended up acquiring the fifth division, or should I say, handpicking the people who are holding the work. And during that time, I met the people who basically made all my childhood and my friends' childhood. I grew up under their stories, and I saw the lives of these people completely broken, right? And I saw thousands of artists left without work, and this pushed me to think really hard about the market condition and where we are heading. And that's when the hype around AI started, and I started to look at the AI in a more deeper fashion. So like of course, I forgot to mention that not only the traditional animation industry, but also the marketing industry is under big pressure. We see the mergers of big corporations like Omnicom, IPG. They always merge, they always collapse. The brands themselves, they are not happy with the traditional marketing industry, so that industry is also under huge pressure. Now, at the same time, we see a big demand from the market for content. Today, business cannot move without content. Today's consumer wants content, right? Wants to interact with the content. And we see a big push from the market to almost like real-time content, right? Like if I had the chance to have real-time content, they would pay for it, right? So we tried to solve a hard problem. What if we can create, let's say, 10-minute animation with AI, and how much should we try to merge traditional pipelines with the AI to get the results we want? And the R&D started like 6, 7, 8 months ago, and here are some results. So I'll show you, I'll put some videos. This is basically, I call them last generation, not last generation, but one generation before the last generation technology, where we managed to get this 10-minute animation for a streaming platform which has around like 10 million user base, but they are successful. So basically, we created a whole kids content for them because it's easy to create kids content, right? It doesn't take a ton of work because you are dealing with an audience that does not expect very complicated animation. So some problems that we try to solve here before getting into the artistic part is try to get some sort of consistency for the characters, for the location. Try to be able to keep the staging so the user believes that there is actually okay, this one is good. So the user believes that there are words beyond the image, right? So it's believable, right? So most of the last 6 months, we try to focus on the consistency, keeping everything consistent. That is one of the hardest challenges of AI. And then came the acting, and then came the specific motion transfers, etc. I'll move forward fast. These are like multiple characters interacting in an outside environment. They're talking, they're interacting, etc. They get to the bus, and then we see animation within the room. Pretty much we solve the problem of putting wherever we want, the camera wherever we want, and basically getting the content, and we need ton of post-production on this to get to the final cut. Now, what's impressive about this is not the quality of the animation, but the fact that we reached to an operational capacity to create this sort of animation, let's say, within 3 weeks, excluding the factor that artists can come back and require 1,000 different generations, right? Or maybe they are not satisfied with the results, excluding that factor. Let's say if we have the animatic of the 10-minute video, we could have this material within 2 to 3 weeks. So coming from traditional industry, it's very impressive deadlines. And now the question turns into, who are the artists who are going to work with this technology to create much more sophisticated look in terms of the art itself? And these are some tests with some companies. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show you the best stuff because they are protected under NDAs and stuff, but I can show you whatever I can. And this changes, the way we should think about this business at all, right? Because if we can bring down the cost of production 90%, if we can cut the timelines 90%, we sort of we are ending up creating completely different new industries in their form. And we could have new markets for this type of content. Now, I'll show you some of our portfolio. So basically, what you see here is it's our Kitsu management board. Basically, you have this almost like, I don't even call this storyboard, I call this thumbnailing, right? You have this thumbnailing, and then you move to the background, and then you create the keyframes, and then you create the animations. Of course, there is a ton of work behind the scenes that's happening before these files get into the Kitsu. But basically what happens is that AI forces you to take the production pipeline from here, from animatic, to go to the final cut, right? So this introduces the challenges of getting the artistic vision into the work. So you need to come up with completely new ways of building your pipeline so artists can collaborate together to create the final work without working on the softwares and the pipelines that they are very used to. So that itself is a challenge. That's why I don't call them artists anymore, I call them storytellers. Because what's left from the traditional industry for the AI pipeline, for the full AI pipeline, to be exact, is the storyteller itself. Like, there are people who got into this industry because they were passionate about telling the stories and warming people's hearts, right? Like they have inspiration to share. For this type of people, you have the best time to be alive, you know? For people who are too technical and they are in that business for the softwares that they are using and not really the storytelling, I do believe their job is in danger. Now, here are some problems that we are trying to solve while working with AI. And unfortunately, what I see in the market is companies approaching AI in a very unserious way. The best they do sometimes, most of the times, is one or two of their professionals work on this, or maybe they hire an outsider who call themselves AI artists, and they try to solve the hard problems that goes into traditional filmmaking with AI with very, very little resources and very little creative input. And all the problems that you see here, like, you know, keeping the consistency, the style transfer, the layered editing, and keeping the multi-shot production flows and lip sync and animation and all that, companies don't invest enough. That's why they see shitty results. And AI itself is not a deterministic tool, but it's getting deterministic as time passes. So every week we are getting new workflows, new pipelines, we're building new software to get hold of the AI, so we can give the artist almost like 100% control, right? And it requires a ton of investment and thinking, because we are basically dealing with a new monster here. So now the question becomes, if we have a storyteller and the production itself is happening in a server owned by Google or some other company, or let's say the server is owned locally, whatever, we need to find new ways to translate the creative intent to the AI so we can get the best possible result, right? Some of the tools that we have now is the storyboard, the reference art, the prompts, and of course the motion transfer, which is the technology is getting really, really good over the time. And I guess more tools will appear soon, and of course the layered editing is not here, but I guess the industry will deliver it within a couple of months. So if we step back from all this and we try to figure out, okay, where is the storyteller and where is the AI, yes, and how these two entities should interact with one another, because AI turns into the creator, sort of, or should I say the machine that will bring the creative intent of the artist to life, right? So we need to work with the AI to figure out where it's really good and where we should try to keep it out. When it comes to script, storyboard, character design, creative intent in terms of the keyframe and animation, overall animation supervision, creative edit, these are type of things that you want to leave it in the hands of the artists. But when it comes to transferring the style, for example, having a keyframe or an animation and trying to get the same animation in 10 different formats, right? AI can help in that. Or let's say artist has creative intent, and artist typically is not the best person to write all the detailed prompting that goes into creating good work with AI. AI itself can help on that. And then you have the sketches that can quickly come to life, and then assets that you can create with AI, the backgrounds, the generation itself, and a ton of other things. We can discuss this in private. I don't want to get too technical now because my time is very limited. Now, we are at the moment when basically after 6-8 months of being in this business, after showing our results to the streamers, some streamers, we have commissioned projects and we are delivering them, let's say 10 episode animation very, very fast, much faster than the traditional pipelines and in terms of the budgets, with much lower budgets. And we are working on animation that goes to the cinema and many other possibilities. Now, the agency that I was working for, Arevera, they are in full CG business. When they started 6-7 years ago, CGI was a joke. People didn't even talk about it, you know? After 6 years, now it's replacing sort of like traditional production itself, right? And now it's very serious thing. One thing you should consider that whatever you see now in terms of the technology and AI slap on the internet, is just because the heavy artillery, some of whom are sitting in this room, didn't really enter the game. And so far, we just saw the opportunists jumping on the technology, right? And this year, I guess, this year and next year, we're going to see a boom in AI-based pipelines and projects and yeah, many different forms of storytelling. And I believe new forms of storytelling will emerge. And given the fact that AI is very similar to traditional animation pipelines, I believe the people in this room have a big mission in their bags. So why I say this? You see, in traditional filmmaking, you plan your filming, you go shoot, and then you bring back the material, and then you try to take your film out of it, right? In animation, you plan everything, and then you go and then you go produce it, right? Like you edit first, and then you produce. Now, AI itself is like traditional animation. It doesn't matter what style you pick. It's the same type of mindset that goes into it. Pre-planning and having everything in your hand before you actually go into the production. So this allows us to basically get the stories of the people's heads without the sophisticated pipelines and budgets, but they need the help from this industry, which is very niche. The traditional animation industry is very niche. We think many people are in animation, but in fact, there are not many people in the animation. It's a very niche industry. We need to get the learning, the mindset, the approach of the traditional animation, and bring that learning to the stories, the thousands of stories that would never come to life because they would never see the budgets from Euroimage or big American corporations, you know, because the storytellers didn't have the resources and the access, or they didn't have chance to learn Blender and, you know, spend a ton of time learning these sophisticated technologies. So we see in our company and in our production, with our production partners, we see a ton of demand from the market for a bit cheaper budgets, but consistent long-form storytelling. We think that we are at the start of a boom of big boom in production and the requirements from industry for higher quality content. And the people that we have here and the traditional industry have the job to teach the masses, to teach these newbie storytellers of what could be new ways of producing films. Couple of quick summaries of the learning. So whatever the test you did 2 months ago, be pretty sure that they don't apply today. Every week we see new models, and one thing that people don't like to talk about in AI community, but is certainly true, these models that are trained, they are trained for on some specific data sets, right? When you're trying to execute long-form content, right, you are facing 1,000 different challenges. You cannot build one pipeline on a couple of AI models and be done with it. You need different models for different sort of problems. And that requires extensive testing on the artist side. And this, what makes it even more complicated, that every 3 months, you almost have complete change in your toolbox. So you need to be constantly on top and testing and testing. Creative editing is definitely the king because you get a ton of content and sometimes you get fantastic results that you didn't intend to, so you can create, so you need amazing editing to bring the final output. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And yeah, the important point is, don't look what is happening in the market. Within the next 1 year or 2, we are going to have very deterministic models. We are going to have very deterministic pipelines. And artists will have control down to every millisecond of animation. I assure you on that. Yeah, and this comes basically when we talk about the change in the industry, I sort of changed my favorite line from Ratatouille, is like not everyone can be a great storyteller, but great storyteller can come from anywhere. This is, I think, really special message, and this is true because AI community is trying to brainwash the markets that, oh, everybody's a storyteller and everyone can create and we need to get rid of all the artists because now AI creates. I think garbage in, garbage out. For stories, you need people with vision who have the sense of art, who have sense of telling stories. And we are entering into an era where the people who had these stories in their minds, who want to light our hearts, who want to share their stories, they are not bounded with the technology and the big budgets and all the sophisticated tools that goes in filmmaking. So that's, I think, very inspiring thing, depending from whose perspective you look into. In terms of the future, so we see three already existing business movements in the market. One is, of course, AI will accelerate your already existing pipelines, that's for sure. Full-scale production is always there, and it's improving every 2-3 months, and I think within a year we'll see world-class quality. And AI now is amazing for trailers, teasers, marketing content. Directors are not bound to one style anymore. They can see their characters come to life from sketch to multiple genres of storytelling, multiple genres of films, of short videos, and they don't need to spend a ton of resources or build expensive pipelines. So, and they can build social media following on their material before they actually go and produce it in a traditional way. So trailers, teasers, marketing content, it's definitely here, and I think, yeah, if you don't have budgets for your projects already committed, not using AI is sort of stupid. And full-scale production, yeah, this is in works, and within a year or two we'll see big projects coming on board, and we can all embrace it, and we can lead the market, I guess. Yeah, pretty much that's it. How we can collaborate is we are always looking for great artists to work on our projects. Now we are fully focused on getting good artists to work with us. We can discuss how we can help you with your pipelines. We can, I don't know, design new pipelines for you, but this should be perceived, this call for partnerships should be perceived only in the context of trying to make the art that will change people's perception about technology itself, because whatever the market perception is now is wrong, and it prevents from stories to come to the market as soon as possible. But I think we can change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this new vision on AI. Maybe is there any question?
Okay, thank you. I'm Jean-François from ISART. It's a school, animation school. The question is, what about the skills you need from a new, not students, but for the next juniors of the industry? What kind of profile you think you will be looking for?
Yeah, so this is a big challenge that we see in the market. So what happens is, this is actually true in other industries as well. The professionals in the industry, they are getting even more exhilarated, right? A director that has big experience, they can pretty much move very fast with very little crew, and new students don't have room to learn from them, because typically, especially the new students, they get into the market doing, the things that top people don't really want to do, and then they learn their way up, right? So that's a big problem how we do this skill transfer, right? But on the other hand, the students that got into the film school, right? I will encourage them to only focus on the stories. They should forget about the AI, the traditional pipelines, whatever tools exist now. whoever tries to scare them with, ComfyUI workflows and pipelines and all that, within a year or two, we'll see magnificent platforms that will make it very easy to actually produce. So I'll encourage those students who got into the filmmaking, if they are not true storytellers, they are there just to become, I don't know, a VFX supervisor because they think VFX supervisors make good money. They should immediately change their career. But if they are storyteller at heart, they should completely double down on it, forget the technique, and ask themselves what they can create. And of course, use all the tools to experiment and to put their work in front of people. Thank you.
We have time for the question.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
So you said that AI will become deterministic within a year. How is that supposed to happen with a stochastic tool that's never made to be deterministic at all? Why do you think it will be deterministic?
Good question. Actually, AI is sort of deterministic now. What I meant is in a year it will be much better. So how is it deterministic? When you try to make a film, again, this is coming from the technology industry, this wrong perspective. They try to push the idea that, now you can just enter to a Sora platform or whatever platform, and you can create 20-second animation. 6 months ago, you could only create 5 seconds, sorry. And the narrative of the market is, let's say in 6 months, you will be able to create 1-minute animation, right? So we think it's a stupid perspective. What we try to do is, basically the 10-minute video is made of sequences and shots, right? You need to get the keyframes and then the animation. For each keyframe, you need, let's say, 2-3 seconds animation, right? In a rare cases, maybe you need longer than that, but most of the cases, each shot is 2 to 5 seconds, whatever, right? So you try to build a pipeline of multiple AI models by testing them very hard based on your project, and try to build a pipeline to take control on each stage, starting from, let's say, you need a location, right? And then you need your character. You need to give intentionality to your character, right? With deterministic, I mean, right now, if we later on talk about our pipeline, how we create, right? Our artists can pretty much have like 100% control on everything. If they don't like the lighting, they can change the lighting. If they don't like the position of the characters within the frame, they can change that. They can change whatever they want, right? And then in terms of the animation, the tools to change the animation, the already generated animation are here. Not great. Within 6 months, they will be amazing. But now we see a completely new wave of doing animation with AI when you get simple layout with 3D in terms of motion, and then you transfer this motion to the animation. So instead of just relying on whatever AI gives you, you give the motion, and AI builds the motion on your final render. I can show you amazing tests on that.
Okay, is there any other question? Sorry,
Hi, I didn't understood. Did you own your own AI models, or do you use standard models?
No, what we own is the pipeline built on the AI models, and sometimes we custom train these models. So some of them give you an opportunity to train them with your art. So yeah.
Okay. And ComfyUI you use?
We use ComfyUI, but not 100% of the times.
Okay.
Only on the very sophisticated cases. I just want to summarize one note. When agencies, they try to experiment with AI, right? Most of these new generations of AI artists, they try to sell a complicated vision, node-based ComfyUI, whatever, to get your results. Sometimes you can get your results with just Google VO, and sometimes, or most of the times, much better results, right? The industry doesn't tell you that, because they want to make it sound very complex, so they prevent many people entering into it actually because it's against their interest. They can't charge clients more. So what I will challenge you to do is, instead of trying to figure out what Veo or other platforms can do for you, or what ComfyUI can do for you, you take your challenge, which should come from business. Yeah, like you need business objectives. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to bypass the traditional production pipelines used by the French companies to make great art to get the final result, or you are just trying to do a demo for your project? Like, what are you trying to accomplish, and what is the style of it? Yeah, and then you try to work with whatever market offers to get the best result. But you need some sort of pipeline for that. Otherwise, you won't get complicated results. You'll get very simplistic stuff. But try to test both open source, closed source. Don't let the industry to push you into thinking that, oh, if it's not very complicated workflow, you won't get fantastic results.
There is another question.
About the render, how many? Do you know the ratio between what you used in the final editing and the garbage generated that weren't accurate enough on your expect? And do you have any idea of the amount of calculation time, like rendering time, thinking time, the AI run to provide you the amount, the ratio of what you used in the final editing? How many garbage are there, minutes of calculating?
You see, because it doesn't take millions to create this garbage that you are mentioning, right? You first need a hypothesis what you are calculating and what for. For us, what matters is time to the final product. Now, from the beginning, we locked in specific style and specific business outcomes that we want to have from AI, and we tried to solve that specific problem, and we built our pipelines and solutions for that specific problem, right? Not for a generic approach to generate, oh, this style and that style. You focus what you're trying to accomplish, yes? So what matters for us is that when we have the animatic, we deliver it under 2 weeks. The backgrounds, the keyframes, the animation. And another interesting fact that is happening in the market is that you don't need hundreds of high-end filmmakers or traditional artists to work on it. You have completely new generation of artists, most of them being the young people, who have that curiosity towards the technology. You show them the animatic, you show them your pipeline, and you tell them, go figure out. 50% of the time, their results are much more interesting than the people in the industry because they're locked in their thinking, like they don't know how to move fast. So just to answer your question, for us, we do ton of garbage, like almost, we are flooded with garbage. That's why we are building pipelines and software to handle this garbage, yeah? But what matters for us is that a small crew can deliver the project under 2 weeks. That's what we are measuring.
We still have time for questions.
I was asking this because currently there is a lot of investment in AI, which means it costs almost nothing to use it, relatively to the real cost it has. And when this will happen, then we will have to pay what it really costs. The amount, the ratio of garbage will matter a lot. So it would be very interesting to know how it costs. It should have cost to run this, because maybe it's not sustainable at all, financially speaking. That's my question.
I just want to give more context on this issue of the cost, because this is a very important topic. You see, for example, when you build traditional pipelines, right? You have the material. Later on, you can go and change, right? With AI, you're getting the final thing, which is like in real life, like when you're paying for your rent for your house, after some time you have the house, right? With AI, it's like you are constantly living on rent. You will never own the house, right? So AI is not cheap at all. Time is your first cost, and second is your actual manpower, people working on it, trying to get something out of it. So when you are thinking about AI, why I always say try to focus on the business first. What are you trying to accomplish, right? One of our objectives is, can we have Pixar-style 3D animation 10 minutes within a month, right? Let's say within even 2 months. If we manage to accomplish this objective, if we try to do it in a traditional way, it will cost 10, 100 times more than the way we do it, right? So we are very specific on the business case we are trying to solve. That's why typically on just the super traditional pipelines, when you're trying to work out something very specific, doing it in a traditional way sometimes is much faster and cheaper than trying to do it with AI. So there is truth to that. So you should focus on your business objectives. What are you really trying to accomplish, you know? And yeah, try to work your way out of it.
We just have time for a quick question, so this is going to be the last question.
Yeah. So you were talking about making like Pixar quality movies, and I worked for Pixar for nearly 10 years. And one of the things that I think you don't get with AI is the benefit of iteration. You know, people come up with a story, it gets refined over a few years until it becomes good enough. And sometimes Pixar is known to have thrown away entire movies or sequences just because they realized that the story was a bit shit. So of course that's something you can do with AI, but it seems that because of that focus on low budget and quick turnaround times, this is not really your business model, right?
Actually it is. So you're bringing up an amazing point, and I guess I did a great job to bring that message across. When you look at the time that you spend on so when you say, oh, we take the production pipeline from animatic and we cut it to the final output, right? Industry naively thinks that, oh, this was just the production workflows that we are cutting, and it's just time saving and money saving, right? But in fact, during all these periods, the story itself was getting refined, right? So that's why I mentioned that you need new forms of story, new groups of storytellers working in a completely different fashion than in the traditional business to figure out how can you improve your story, do the iterations and improve your story, right? That requires completely different sort of mindset, right? Traditional animator's job, the tasks that he's doing every day at job, 90% might be changing, right? But we definitely need their vision, their story that is in their head, right? The refinement of the story. So, so this part, the idea, the story, the storyboard, animatic, till here, AI can't help you really. It's the old traditional ways of doing things because AI cannot get inspired and bring you fantastic stories. Perhaps it can accelerate in some sort of ideation workflows, yeah? But again, when you are talking about Pixar level productions, AI will not be very useful in that. So this stays, right? The editing gets even harder challenges because you have results that you need to work with. Yeah, post-production gets even more complex. But the biggest challenge is if you are removing these layers, sort of, the people who were the storytellers who need to improve the story before you get the final output, when and how are they going to participate in? That's the challenge that you have as a new generation production company. Exactly. But now you are moving to an economy where these 50 animators can have their input, but they don't need to spend all the time that they were spending while giving their vision. You know, so we are talking about different markets here, different business models, different ways of doing things.
Okay, we have to stop the conversation there. Sorry, Pete. So you will be able to talk with Arthur after. Yes, thank you for this presentation. You can proceed.
Thank you.